So this video is going to be one long self-report. It's time for me to come clean with you guys. I've just had a shameful few weeks. My wife and I just went on vacation. We ended up going on a cruise and we had a wonderful time. But in the days and weeks leading up to the cruise, my little photographer brain began to focus on what all wonderful new and exciting toys that I needed to take with me on this trip. I immediately began researching, spent a lot of time on eBay, and wound up with many new things. I ended up convincing myself that my Leica M6 wasn't going to be a good choice because it was going to be too slow. And with that same logic, most of my other cameras were ruled out as well. So then the hunt began, searching high and low, looking for just the right camera, just the right lens to take with me on this trip. I knew that there would be lots of sand and lots of bright light, and that things would be happening pretty quickly, so I wound up with some options that I thought would suit that need. We did some swimming and some snorkeling, and the Nikonos was a great choice for that, and for everything else, I relied heavily on a Nikon F100 and a complement of lenses. And you can see the issue here with me, and it's just gear acquisition syndrome ran wild. But the end result is this: I think I would have been much happier if I had have just committed to one of the cameras that I had and then avoided all the hassle of buying the new cameras, learning the systems, and trying to figure out what in the world I was doing, and just shot the excellent camera that I already had. So let's identify the problem. We all love film photography. We really love it. We get on YouTube, we watch hours and hours and hours of film photography related content, and we get really fired up about buying new gear and new things. The trouble is, I feel like many channels, including my own, have the tendency to accelerate this gear acquisition syndrome, to really shift it into overdrive and to leave you foaming at the mouth, chomping at the bit, trying to buy a new camera. And I think the end result is this: I think your camera gear is just on a carousel. You're on this endless loop of buying and selling and trading, trying to find that perfect piece of gear, that one piece of gear that's going to satisfy all of your needs. And let's be clear, to some degree, this is valuable and healthy. That discourse, those videos, they give us an idea of the cameras that are out there and what the features are, and it gives you an idea of what camera you do actually need. But I think here we're talking about something different. More of an unhealthy obsession with cameras and gear, and less focusing on the photography itself. To some degree, this is valuable and healthy. My life does have meaning, and I don't have to shut down my YouTube channel. But yes, watching these channels, drawing inspiration from them, all that is really good. But I think for me, and probably for many of you guys too, it's important for us to contextualize this content and not always let it send us into a frenzy. No, we don't need a Mamiya 7 II after watching the 8,000 videos that exist on YouTube about it, or even the Nikon F100, the video I just made. You probably don't need that. If you're already shooting a Canon AE1, you're well covered. So here are a few things to remember when you get all cold and clammy and the only thing that will rectify it is a new hunk of metal and glass from Tokyo, Japan. So everything is just pros and cons. That statement isn't necessarily good English, but it is true. Make no mistake, there are no silver bullets in this hobby. There is no one camera that's the answer for absolutely everything, no matter what my thumbnails or anybody else's thumbnails tell you. You aren't gonna find one camera that does almost everything perfectly, except for maybe your iPhone. But none of us are ready for that conversation. That's too easy. Seriously though, there's so many good options out there for film photography, but you must recognize that every choice is also a compromise. You want an SLR instead of a rangefinder? Guess what, buddy? That mirror box is going to take up some space, and you're going to have to accept some additional size over the rangefinder format. You want to go large format? You better be ready to slow the F down. Now don't get it twisted. That doesn't mean that some cameras aren't better than others, or some cameras aren't better designed than others. But generally, many of those principles hold true. There's always going to be a camera out there that does something better than the camera that you have. Especially when you're shooting in Instax, and almost every camera does almost everything better. Freaking hate Instax. There's also another important discussion that I would like to have, and that's about the illusion of choice. So let's imagine this hypothetical gear room, unlike my shelf back there, where you have access to every camera and every lens in the world. Leica M6s, Leica M7s, Hasselblads, all the lenses, all the Mamiyas, all of your heart's desire, like the treasure room from Aladdin. If you had all those things, how would you ever decide what to shoot? It's like when I walk into a Buc-ee's and try to figure out which beef jerky I'm gonna buy. The firstest of first world problems, I know. There's this famous study cited from 2000 from Sheena Ingar and Mark Lepper, which talks about choice paralysis. And basically the TLDR of that study is that having more choices don't always lead to more satisfaction with the choice that was made. There are all these different things. Having additional choices can lead to feelings of anxiety and regret. You bring the Nikon F100, but you leave the Leica M6 at home. It's a regret I have right now. So the more options we give ourselves on the photography front, on the camera and gear front, the less likely we're ultimately going to be satisfied with the end result of our choices. All of us, myself included, think that buying more cameras, buying more gear increasing our capabilities is going to lead to better photographic outcomes. But I think lots of times, much like the study says, it can oftentimes lead to choice paralysis or choice dissatisfaction with the choices that we end up making. It alludes to the idea in economics of an opportunity cost. Every time we choose to do something, we're choosing not to do something else. At the end of the day, you're happy, but a little less so because you're thinking about what might have been. And the solution to this problem is really simple. If you've got a good film camera that does everything you need it to do, maybe you don't need to buy another one. Maybe you should just buy film instead, or book a trip, or buy a Supra, or give it to charity. But this is also one of those videos that's gonna be a do as I say, don't do as I do video, because I'm also guilty of all these things. That's why I'm making a video about it. We're gonna get through this together. For many of us, this is gonna be much easier said than done. After all, we love the stuff. We love the cameras. We love to get them and fiddle with them and then think about all the cool situations we can put these cameras in and all the capabilities that we've increased by having them. I mean, think about it. There's not much more exciting than knowing that when you get home from work, there's a package waiting on you with a brand new camera inside. Super exciting. But maybe, hear me out. Maybe we should just be happy with the things that we have and focus more on the shooting and the process. That's why we're into film photography after all. The process. We love that shit. We shouldn't let having too many options or too much gear slow us down. But if you do want to convolute your process a little more, watch this video where I talk about 5 ways you can potentially save money on film. But as always, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.